Before we begin, let me ask you something. When your house finally goes quiet at night, when everyone you love is asleep, who do you trust to notice what you've missed? Not alarms, not routines, not the habits that convince you everything is fine. Tonight's story isn't about fear. It isn't about tragedy. It's about a mistake that almost happened, and the one presence in the house that refused to stop paying attention. This is Whispered Dark Diaries, stories told softly for those who understand that danger doesn't always arrive loudly. Lower the lights, get comfortable, and listen closely. The Dog Who Stayed Awake, a Christmas night story. Christmas arrived quietly that year, not with music or rush or the usual exhaustion of preparation, but with Amira. She was only a few days old, so small that breathing still looked deliberate. Her chest rose carefully, as if she hadn't yet decided whether the world was gentle enough to trust. The house changed the moment she came home. Voices dropped without anyone asking. Doors closed more gently. Lights stayed dim longer than usual. Sleep itself felt lighter. Even Zara noticed. Zara had been part of that family for years. A German shepherd with a steady temperament and an observant nature, she knew the house better than anyone. She knew which floorboard creaked near the stairs, which cupboard door never closed properly, how long the kettle usually stayed on the burner before someone remembered it. She also knew when something didn't belong. Christmas Day brought family. Cousins arrived in the afternoon, voices overlapping as coats were removed and food was carried inside. Uncle arrived later, holding a small gift bag and asking to see the baby before anything else. Zara moved among them calmly. She accepted brief pats, ignored the noise, and kept returning to the hallway, the point where the kitchen, bedrooms, and living room met. Dad moved from room to room, checking on guests, checking on Amira. As evening approached, they gathered in the living room. Candles were lit. Music was lowered. Dad prayed. He spoke about the birth of Jesus, about light entering the world quietly, about responsibility, about care. Then he looked down at Amira in his arms. She is a gift, he said, and today we remember what gifts really mean. After prayer, the house returned to movement. Cousins talked. Plates were cleared. Uncle mentioned tea. Dad filled the kettle and placed it on the burner. He meant to come back, but Uncle asked him something about work. A cousin laughed from the living room. Amira stirred softly in her sleep. Dad stepped away. The flame stayed on. Hours passed. Some cousins left. Others stayed the night. The house slowly shed its noise. Lights went off one by one. Doors closed. Breathing slowed. Amira slept. Zara did not. She took her place in the hallway between the bedrooms and the kitchen, not pacing, not anxious, just alert. The first thing Zara noticed wasn't smoke, it was heat. A subtle change in the air. warmth where warmth didn't belong. The kettle had boiled dry, water gone, metal against flame. The handle warmed slowly, releasing a faint, bitter scent, barely noticeable to humans, unmistakable to a dog. Zara stood and walked into the kitchen. Everything looked normal. The flame was blue, the kettle was quiet, but the smell was growing. She stopped a few feet from the stove and stared. The kettle made a faint metallic sound as its base warped. Upstairs, Dad turned in his sleep. Amira shifted, then settled again. Zara returned to the hallway and sat upright, ears forward now, body tense. She waited. Time stretched the way nights do when no one is watching. The smell sharpened. Not smoke, not enough to trigger an alarm, but close. Zara walked to Dad's bedroom door and scratched once. Soft, controlled, nothing. She scratched again. Dad stirred. "Might be Zara," he murmured, still half asleep. Zara stepped back, returned to the kitchen. The kettle pinged again, louder this time. Plastic had begun to soften. Zara barked. Once, sharp, urgent, lights snapped on. Dad was on his feet instantly. He moved down the hallway without thinking, pulled forward by the sound and the smell that followed it. The kitchen air was sharp now, hot plastic, stressed metal. He turned off the burner and pulled the kettle away just as the handle collapsed inward. Seconds more, and plastic would have ignited. Smoke would have filled the hallway, the bedrooms next. Dad stood there longer than necessary, staring at the stove. Then he looked down. Zara stood a few steps back, tail low, eyes steady. Dad crouched and placed both hands on her head. "Good girl," he said quietly. Not as praise, but as thanks. He pressed his forehead briefly against hers, breathing out slowly. "You stayed," he added, as if saying it out loud mattered. Zara leaned into his hands once. Only then did she lie down. No one slept properly after that. Uncle sat at the table longer than usual, hands wrapped around a cold mug. A cousin checked the stove twice before heading upstairs. No jokes were made. Christmas morning came anyway. Food was reheated. Laughter returned. Quieter now. Uncle mentioned how alert Zara had been. Dad nodded, rubbing her head gently. Later, during prayer, Dad added a line at the end. "For protection we didn't plan for. For warnings we almost ignored. And for the ones who stay awake." Zara slept near the kitchen that day, close enough, just in case. Most house fires don't begin with chaos. They begin with distraction, with celebration, with good intentions, and sometimes the only thing standing between a mistake and a tragedy is attention, not miracles, not instinct we don't understand, just presence. Tonight, when your house goes quiet and everyone you love is asleep, remember this: safety doesn't always come from alarms. Sometimes it comes from Zara, lying awake in the hallway while Amira sleeps. New entries are added to these diaries for those who understand that the most important moments are often the ones that never happen. Until next time, keep the lights low. Good night.